Hi, I'm Sabrina Justison from SevenSistersHomeschool.com, and this is about understanding plagiarism. Nobody is immune to plagiarism. The temptation is there, and in the internet age, it is easier than ever to plagiarize. In fact, many people plagiarize without even realizing that that's what they're doing. There is such a thing as accidental plagiarism, but it's still plagiarism. When you're working with middle school or high school students, it's important to first begin by modeling good behavior. The beginning of each year, I like to sit down with my high school student that I'm homeschooling, and I like to write his first research paper with him. I think that it's important to get the year started on the right foot by him seeing me using careful avoidance of risky behaviors and then good editing techniques, so that he realizes just how careful he has to be the rest of the year as he's writing papers that will not be plagiarized. A great way to lay the foundation for an older child understanding this is while they're still young, take a picture that your child drew or a little story that they wrote and hold it up to them and smile and say, "This is such a great picture that I drew, isn't it?" Your child would be incensed. They'll say, "Mommy, you didn't draw that picture. I drew that picture." You can say, "Well, I could tell people that I drew it because it's a really great picture. I could tell people it was mine." Your child automatically knows from a very young age that that's not fair. If they drew the picture, it's their work, and you should not tell people that you drew it. So once a child understands the concept of what plagiarism is, and when they understand the innate injustice of taking credit for somebody else's work, then as they get a little older, you want to express the consequences. You know that most colleges will automatically give you an F if you're found to be plagiarizing in a class, and if it happens more than once, it's grounds for expulsion from most colleges. No questions asked, no excuses accepted. It's a big deal. After that, we talk a lot about how to do research with reputable websites. The internet is full of information, much of which is not information at all. It's out of somebody's imagination. And it's not an automatic thing that our kids are going to understand what's a reputable website and what is not. Simple things like things that end with .edu or .gov are a whole lot safer than .com sites or .org sites even. But even more helpful than that is actually doing research with your student for that first paper of the year. Talking through the process. Why are you discarding information from this site? Why have you looked at it and decided, you know what, we're not going to cite this because this is really not a reputable resource? Can you model for them how to follow the prompts at the bottom of the page that will take you often on many websites to detailed instructions on how to cite this source? Okay, so you're modeling, you're teaching them to avoid risky sites for information. Copy and paste. Copy and paste is a minefield. Everyone wants to use it because it's so handy. I use it in all sorts of writing, but not in research writing. If I copy and paste into my word processing document my notes for the research that I'm doing, do you know how easy it will be to accidentally just take some of that writing that someone else did and insert it into my paper as if it were my own? I may not even realize I'm doing it. By the time I've been working on a paper for several days or a couple of weeks, I may not even realize that I'm doing it. It will slip in under the radar. Don't use copy and paste for your notes. I'm a big fan of traditional index cards for taking notes. And I've had so many students ask, why in the world are we still using index cards in the day of technology? The reason is very simple. If I'm reading an article and I'm writing down notes on my index card and I want to quote something, I have to take the time to write down that quote. I'm going to choose very carefully and I'm going to choose very wisely. And I'm very likely to remember that that is a quote from someone else. I'm much less likely to plagiarize if I avoid copy and paste altogether. Finally, help your child articulate what they're learning. If a child is reading an article about something related to the topic that he's supposed to write on, and he can't discuss it with you over a meal, he hasn't understood what he's read well enough to begin writing about it yet. Oftentimes a kid will look at an article and feel like they should immediately be able to write 2 paragraphs for their paper based on the information in that article. If they try it, they will plagiarize. They won't even mean to, but they will plagiarize. Try this technique. Have them walk away from the computer. Go do something else for a while, 15 or 20 minutes. Then come back, and with the computer screen off and a blank piece of paper, could they sit there and jot down a few notes about what they read in that article? Or if they hate to write and blank paper freaks them out, could they sit and look you in the eye and tell you what it was that they learned earlier today when they read that article? If they can articulate what they've learned, they're ready to take notes about it. But if they can't tell you anything about it without the computer screen up, They haven't learned it yet and they're not ready. They're going to accidentally plagiarize if they pop that computer screen open and begin taking notes right then and there. So 4 tips: modeling, finding reputable websites, avoiding copy and paste like the plague, and articulating what you've learned before you write about it are a good safety net for avoiding plagiarism.